Hello, hello, lovely people. Coach Adrian here for another YouTube Live. And I'm really, really excited to be able to connect with you today. As always, thank you to Arya, Isra, and Nadia who managed to be in here before me. I don't know how you guys do it. I'm not having problems with my connection this time, I think. If you can't hear me, let me know, but I think everything should be fine today. Hello to Vic in Lithuania. Hello to Jonah. Hello to Veronica in Hungary. Uh, Super excited to be able to have to spend a bit of time with you guys today. So, the topic that we're going to address today is emotional triggers. And I think that it's a topic that is very, very important. And a young woman named Jessica reminded me of that this week via email. Jessica and I worked together about a month ago. And when she reached out to me and shared her story, I was sure that they were going to get back together. Nothing in life is for certain, but based on the story, based on Jessica's demeanor during our coaching session, and her ability to basically acknowledge the fact that she could follow through on the plan that we had created, I was sure that Jessica was going to get back with her boyfriend because she understood the emotional triggers that basically created the breakup, that led to the breakup. And so it inspired me to do this YouTube Live to talk a little bit about emotional triggers. As always, thank you for telling me where you're from San Antonio, from Zambia, Greece, Egypt. Thank you for your interactions in the chat. I love it. At the end, I will leave a few minutes to answer your questions after I tell you a little bit about emotional triggers. But before I do that, I wanted to let you know that this Sunday, August 26th, at 6 p.m. Eastern Time here in the United States, Coach Alex and I will host a live webinar. I tried to do a live webinar a month and a half ago, I believe. We had connection problems. It was awful. We have fixed these issues, and we're going to be together for, I think, an hour and a half and share our latest research findings with you, as well as do an extended Q&A session. So this Sunday, August 26th at 6 p.m., don't forget to show up, because I think you're going to learn a lot, and we're going to have a lot of fun together. I put the link in the chat box here. I'm going to put the link below the video as well, so that you can register and so that we can spend this time together. So why is emotional triggers so important? And because, quite frankly, if you don't understand your ex's emotional triggers, it's very difficult for you to understand what went wrong. You're going to see things from your point of view. You're going to get basically caught up in your pain, your frustration, your desire to get back together. And you're going to have a hard time being able to really not only relate, but also to convey this change, because you won't have understood what went wrong and why. And that's why in private coaching sessions, the first thing I do after I've basically seen the full picture and understood the puzzle of the relationship dynamic in the puzzle is to go back through what went wrong and to really pinpoint the different mistakes that have been made in order for you to understand the emotional triggers that basically were linked to the negative actions that you or your partner may have done. And it's basically impossible to establish a roadmap if you don't understand your ex's emotional triggers. You need to be able to break below the surface and really truly understand what your ex is feeling. In some sense, you need to be able to feel those emotions with them so that you can break through and start to regain their trust. And we have a formula for that. And we're going to be discussing that formula with Alex on Sunday. But basically, it starts with your ability to understand emotional triggers in order to empathize and validate what your ex is feeling. That's where the process usually starts. And if you don't understand your ex's emotional triggers, the reality is that you're bound to make mistakes over and over again, the same mistakes, quite frankly, over and over again. And so, in order to avoid making mistakes, it is essential for you to understand these emotional triggers that I continuously refer to here. And also, you need to make sure that you understand your own emotional triggers. I was talking to another young lady this week who made a series of mistakes after she saw something on social media that, really hurt her. And she saw her ex engaging, flirting with other women. And of course, that sucks. And I was sorry that, she had to see this. But the reality is that she had been creating fake profiles and trying to basically engage and interact with her significant other in order to get a sense as to, where he was at, how he was feeling, what he was up to at the moment. And that was a terrible idea, because by not understanding her own emotional triggers, by letting her fears and her insecurities get the best of her, what ended up happening was that, she put herself in a situation where she was going to be vulnerable. And, um, you know, that's why it's essential for you to understand what your own emotional triggers are so that you can avoid common mistakes throughout this process. This breakup process is hard enough that if you don't know yourself and if you're not your own best friend, the odds are that you're going to make a lot of mistakes. And I often talk about becoming your higher, better self, using the breakup as a means for a true process of personal transformation. And if you don't know what triggers you, how can you grow? And how can you be better? So, it's essential for you to understand what went wrong and what triggered you to basically do negative actions throughout the relationship. But it's also important to know, how you feel, how you're doing now. And that's why I believe that emotional triggers need to be an essential component of any roadmap that that you're going to put in place moving forward. Kara says breakups are very difficult, and it's a lot difficult when you're on your own. I agree, breakups are hard, but they don't have to be harder, right? They don't have to be as difficult as sometimes you make them out to be. And the key, of course, is to know yourself and to know, what makes the process more difficult for you. Social media, talking to friends, insecure things that you do need to be taken into account. And one of my favorite parts of the job is really to work with individuals to understand not only the way forward, but also to help them understand, identify some of their shortcomings, and work on those while maximizing your quality strengths to really kickstart this process of personal transformation. So I was so inspired by Jessica, because some people just get it and they understand what we're trying to, they understand our philosophy. They've watched tons of videos. I'm sure a lot of you have watched a lot of videos on Love Advice TV. And you know that sometimes it takes a little bit more time than you wish, but you have a purpose and you're growing and you're not just seeking your ex's validation. You're actually on this path. And along the way, your ex comes back, you have a new communication platform, you can showcase that transformation, and you're now starting to leverage the right emotional triggers to create basically a new and improved relationship as part of the seduction process that we often talk about. So this was just a quick preview of why emotional triggers are such an essential component of the roadmaps that we work on in private coaching sessions. and also a preview of what is to come during our live webinar this Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern. And you can register for that webinar either through this live chat where I put the link, or below in the comment section. I'll make sure to also, in the description of this video, I'll make sure to also put this link. So I hope to see you there, because it's going to be awesome, and Alex and I will be sharing our latest research findings. So as always, if you have questions for me, now is the time. Put them in the live chat, and I'll do my utmost to provide you with some answers. Remember that we only have a few minutes. On Sunday, we'll have a lot more time. We usually dedicate at least 40 minutes to just answering your questions and going back and forth, making sure that we're helping you along the way. If you can hear me correctly, if there were no technical issues, please let me know. Like the video, and more importantly, also leave me your questions here in the chat box. So Manny is asking, Keeper of the Reaper, how do you know if an ex-rebound relationship is going to work out? And that is a question that I get a lot. As soon as your significant other starts to date someone, you start to panic. And even before your ex starts to date someone, your worst nightmare is that they're going to find someone else. And a lot of times when people have to do no contact, radio silence, they are hesitant because they fear this very scenario, that your ex is going to meet someone else, and that it's not going to be just a rebound, that they're going to stay together. And the reality of it is that you don't know for sure. And I don't want you to try to find out, because if you do, then you're basically deviating from the path that you should be walking. You're no longer working on your process of personal transformation, and the odds are that you're letting someone else basically trigger you and dictate the terms of your emotional state. There are a lot of signs, right, that can basically help you identify if it is a rebound relationship. But in going through all of these signs right now is not going to help you. It's only going to make you start to overthink things more than anything else. So just continue to focus on you, and that's the best way forward. I love you too, Manny. Thanks for your question. So Brian says, my baby mama left me and my 2-year-old daughter. How do I know? Well, how do I know if she misses me or if she still loves me? So obviously, Brian, what you have to do is you're going to need to make sure that you have some sort of communication platform. And a lot of time, it's not through people's words, but it's through people's actions that you can really tell, where their heart is at. So you will tell that she's starting to miss you and that she still cares about you when her actions start to change, when you're no longer dealing with a bitter, resentful ex that always basically tells you off and doesn't respond to you. When she starts to seek your attention, when she starts to linger and look for ways to continue to interact with you or spend time together, when she starts to become insecure and starts to pick fights when you're not giving her the attention that she wants. There is an endless list of ways to tell. But I think that, you have a child together. Those types of situations are especially dear to me. I encourage you to book a session with me. And if you can't afford to do so, at least come check out our live webinar on Sunday, because we have a lot of content that is geared towards inspiring an ex when you have children together. Martin says, I can't even get her to say 2 words to me anymore. I feel like I've tried everything. What can I do now? She's the one. All right, Martin, so if she's the one, you're going to need to take a step back. And trying everything doesn't mean communicating in every way possible. Sometimes it takes taking a step back. It takes letting her miss you, letting her see that you can be happy without her, regaining confidence and well-being before trying to reestablish contact. A lot of it depends on the mistakes that you've made. Perhaps an accountability letter is going to be necessary, but the timing needs to be right and the messaging needs to be right too. So if you're telling me that you've tried everything now, perhaps you can wait until you have an organic opportunity to reach out. Holidays, birthdays, something to celebrate. Those are usually good opportunities to try to reestablish contact. An accountability letter may be the way to go if big mistakes were made, or perhaps an informal connection, an informal outreach can work as well. But I need to know a lot more about your story in order to advise you the right way. Christopher says, my wife and I separated 10 years and says she loves me but isn't in love with me and only wants to co-parent but calls me for other reasons. Christopher, you're in a really good spot. First of all, 10 years is a long time. The fact that you have children together is also positive. The fact that she says that she loves you is also positive. Being in love is not a feeling that can be sustained forever. People go in and out of being in love, right? It's like waves of the sea. High tide, low tide. You can't always be in love. Love is enough to create a common life project. What you want to do is you have to be, again, here, not make it about you and your needs and try to, basically take her on head on. You want to be a little bit more strategic, and perhaps you want to create moments of happiness, moments of connection. We want to basically create a new emotional connection. And don't put pressure on her. Don't get so caught up on this end goal of trying to make things right, because you're going to be putting a lot of pressure on her. We want to be in the gray, and we want to create connections. And again, I invite you to come to attend our webinar this Sunday at 6 p.m. We're going to dig in and provide you with many, many different ways by which you can do that and leverage the emotional triggers the right way. How do you initiate no contact? Should I say something to let her know or just start? T. Brazy asks. A lot of people ask this question, and letting your significant other know, I will not be talking to you for X number of days just because I think that we need time away from each other, can be counterproductive, because then your your significant other, knows what you're doing. At the same time, starting to ignore your significant other out of the blue when you're on good terms without explaining or giving context is a bad idea. So again, like most of you need tailored advice based on exactly what it is that you're going through. Use your common sense. Don't let your emotions trigger you. Don't let your emotions basically lead you to, act in a needy or desperate way, right? You have to make sure that what you're doing makes sense. In some cases, letting your significant other know, hey, listen, we need time away from each other because this is toxic. This is not, this is not healthy, is the right thing to do. Don't let them know how long you're not going to respond to, but sometimes giving context is essential. Other times, when you've made a lot of mistakes, going cold turkey is preferable. Samantha says, I sent a couple apology letters in the beginning, but they were horrible. I hadn't changed and I didn't hold myself accountable. Is it too late to send another accountability letter? I feel a lot of remorse every day. So Samantha, I have a lot of empathy. A lot of people make a lot of mistakes after a breakup because they're emotional, because they don't have the proper support or guidance. And so, you're not the first person to send a letter or a couple of letters that are love letters and not accountability letters, or not letters that are productive. Ultimately, I don't want it to feel redundant to your significant other, and I don't want you to put him or her on a pedestal by sending multiple letters over and over and over again. So perhaps you can take a step back and think of other creative ways by which you can convey your change, convey your well-being and happiness, and not necessarily talk about your past mistakes and what you did wrong and what you feel remorseful about, but instead take action to convey your personal transformation. So a lot of it will depend on the communication platforms that you do have, whether you are connected on social media, whether you have friends in common, whether you have kids in common, to basically see how you can leverage, your situation to the best ways possible. But just because you've sent a couple of letters does not mean that you can't send another letter again. It just, the timing needs to be right. And oftentimes it's going to be necessary for you to be patient. Otherwise, it doesn't mean anything. If you're sending a letter every 3 weeks, after a while it gets old. So Nikki says, hi from Slovakia. Hi to you back, Nikki Bucks. Thank you for being connected today. And please come on Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern, which will be, I think, noon Western European time, for our free live webinar that I'll be doing with Coach Alex. How do I move on for the first time after a 3-year relationship? What's the difference between the first breakup and the 9th breakup? Lou Jane asks. Fantastic question. The big difference is that, when you do something for the first time, you are very often unaware of what is happening to you. And experience always helps you to navigate, those turbulent waters of a breakup. So I've seen people go through 6, 7 breakups, and eventually the 7th breakup is the hardest, right? So it's not just because it's your first breakup that it means that it'll be the hardest breakup. But what I can tell you is that, you're gaining experience. Breakups happen for a reason. It's to teach you something about you. It's to help you grow because mistakes were made, right? Even in cases where I've seen, an ex being completely toxic and an ex, having or being a narcissist, eventually there's still always something to be learned. And I encourage you to see this breakup as a learning opportunity. By doing so, it will help you move on quicker, and it'll help change your mindset. Mindset is key when moving on, because it's ultimately what can help you basically change your focus and your approach. And eventually you move on by being able to create a new identity. A breakup is an identity crisis. Who you were is different from who you now have to be. And looking to basically create a new identity by, creating new activities and leveraging your social circle, by living with purpose, by making sure that you stay busy and productive and active and impacting the people around you in a positive way. All of those things should be part of your process of moving on. You need to stop living in the past. Don't look at pictures and don't replay this relationship over and over again. And instead, try to learn the lessons from this separation and to take those lessons and to put them into practice in your day-to-day life. That is the best way to move on. Of course, you have to be kind with yourself. It doesn't happen overnight. And, see it as a process. If you see it as a process, not as an end goal or a destination, it's a lot easier. And I can go on and on about the process of moving on, but I encourage you to come again on Sunday so that you can learn tools to become more basically versed when it comes to relationships. And the more you'll learn, the more you know, the easier it will be for you to process the negative emotions that you're dealing with. Okay, so Sergio says, what if my wife left me, but we still work together and have a child together? Okay, so for me, in my opinion, as long as you have an opportunity, a platform by which you can basically communicate with your wife, with your ex, with your significant other, you have an amazing opportunity, as long as you're in the right mindset. Because too often, people that live together, that work together, are basically not in the right mindset, still very vulnerable, still very overpowered by their feelings and their emotions. So this platform turns negative because you basically have an opportunity to make a mistake, to look needy, to put your ex on a pedestal, to act desperate. So having a platform, working together with your ex-wife is amazing, as long as you have done the work, as long as you've detached, as long as you've found well-being and happiness, as long as you've created this new identity, then we can leverage this platform of you working together to inspire her again. So if you work together and you're still very, very emotional, hurt, resentful, needy or desperate, you want to limit the contact and the opportunities together to basically strictly business, right? You want to just talk about work, and you want to make sure that you are not going to let your emotions, trigger you into making mistakes. If you're further along in the process and you feel great, you can start to leverage that to showcase your detachment and to basically start to inspire your ex and to create a new and improved dynamic. I encourage you to book a session with me. I love these types of situations and scenarios. And if you, again, whether you can or cannot afford to do so, please come sign up for the live webinar that I'll be doing with Alex this Sunday at 6. It's free, and I'm sure that you're gonna learn so much, because we'll basically be sharing our latest research findings. I'm going to take a couple more questions, and then I have to jump into a coaching session. I try to always give you guys as much as I can, but coaching sessions are a priority also. So I'm thinking about reaching out to my ex. It's been over a year. I'm not sure how he'd react. I want to apologize, but that I don't know how to go about it. Cuddle24 says, all right, if it's been a year, you've been patient. I'm not sure what you're apologizing for. I'm not sure basically, what went wrong and what happened. But yes, after a year, you should reach out to your ex. Again, I invite you to, depending on his personality, his fears, what went wrong, perhaps an informal message is the way to go. Perhaps you should, talk about an inside joke or something in the news or in current events that is linked to what you guys used to talk about, and use that as an opportunity to reconnect and kind of test the waters first to see where they stand before going, with a full-blown apology. Sometimes apologizing right away may be too much pressure. And other times, when big mistakes were made, when you never fully apologized, when you've been able to grow and gain perspectives and you found peace of mind and happiness, an accountability letter is a fantastic way to reconnect with your significant other. Fantastic. So I encourage you to basically, gather this information and figure out, what's the best roadmap for you moving forward. If you have questions, you can book a coaching session with me. We can figure out the right plan for you together. All right. I'm sorry I can't answer everyone. I'm doing my utmost. Like I said, if you have questions that have not been answered yet, come on Sunday. We will make a point to answer, as many questions as we can. Okay. Greedy Unicorn, you're the lucky winner, chicken dinner. Your question will be the last one answered here. I neglected my wife. We have a son. She doesn't want to work on the marriage. What should I do? Don't force the issue now. Okay? Don't try to force her to work on the marriage. She doesn't want to work on it. So you need to continue to showcase that you've learned from your mistakes, that you're no longer, consumed by your job or some sort of hobby or an addiction, perhaps, that caused you to neglect her. And I encourage you to basically focus more on your process of personal transformation, and also to validate and empathize with the feelings and emotions that she will be expressing. Don't try to prove to her that you are worthy, that you deserve a second chance, that you guys need to work on the relationship for your kids or whatnot. Make it about, breaking down barriers, make it about conveying to her that you understand how she feels in a friendly way, and avoid drama, conflict, negativity, and make sure that, again, that you guys can be friends, that she can start to trust you again. And eventually you will be working on the marriage without realizing it. And, again, I have, I have a lot of compassion for what you're going through. When you're married with someone, when you have kids with someone, the stakes are higher, and you can start to put a lot of pressure on yourself. Ultimately, though, you cannot act as if a divorce would be the end of the world, because once you do that, you put too much pressure on yourself and you're giving your wife way too much leverage. You need to be happy regardless. And from there, you're going to be able to create a new dynamic. So, lovely people, thank you so much as always. Thank you for the love and the appreciation that you're conveying here. Thank you for tuning in to these YouTube lives. And again, don't miss this live webinar that's going to happen this Sunday, 6 p.m. Alex and I will be giving you everything we've got and our latest research findings. You guys give us purpose. We're really thankful. And as always, keep fighting the good fight. You're going to get there. Many people in the last week have gotten their ex back, people that I work with. And I'm always wary about, sharing success stories, or because I know that you guys compare yourselves to each other, and it's very easy for you to start to feel down or to feel like something is wrong with you if you haven't gotten there yet. So it's possible, as long as you're approaching this process the right way, as long as you're growing, as long as you're offering something new. So keep up the good fight, and I'll see you 6 p.m. Eastern this Sunday for a free live webinar with my main man, Coach Alex. Until then, keep fighting the good fight, and see you soon. Have a lovely weekend.